All right, so look, we say we're gods. We say we're the original people, the ones with melanin, the ones whose very biology carries the light of the sun. But then somebody asks, if that's true, then how did the white man crawl out of the caves and create a system of white supremacy, a system of global domination? On the surface, it looks like they outsmarted us. But when you zoom out, you start to see something else. You start to see a cosmic drama unfolding. In our communities, we celebrate who we are. We talk about kings and queens, gods and goddesses, builders of pyramids, the originators of culture. That's a real thing. But then comes the question. And for a long time, that question has been used as a weapon. White people and other people who benefit from this system point to it and say, see, this proves that we're the best. This proves that we're the evolved ones. This proves that white is right. And that lie has been repeated so often that people start to believe it. Some defend it. And that's how the system of white supremacy keeps its grip. It survives not because it's strong, but because too many people keep choosing to believe in the lie. And that is why we have to talk about it. Because the system of white supremacy is a cancer. It has poisoned people, poisoned nature, poisoned nations. It has enslaved, stolen, manipulated, and lied its way through history. It has burned down forests, ripped open the earth, drained and polluted oceans. Now it's aiming at outer space, ready to take this same mentality beyond the planet. And make no mistake, this system will not stop on its own. It does not have a conscience. It does not know when to quit. By design, it will keep extracting, keep consuming, keep devouring until there is nothing left, till there is nobody left. And that's why this matters. Because if we don't name it, if we don't understand it, then it keeps devouring in anonymous silence without accountability and hiding in plain sight. And if you really want to understand this system, we can take a look at what Dr. Frances Cress Welsing had taught us. She broke it down plainly. The system of white supremacy exists because of fear, because whiteness biologically is recessive, because without control, without domination, then it disappears. She called it the ultimate survival strategy. That's the psychology behind the system. A survival reaction turned into a global structure of domination. And when you connect that with the bigger picture, you see it's the same thing that the mystics were talking about when they were talking about the demiurge. Dr. Frances Cress Welsing gave us the psychology. The mystics gave us the archetype. Together, they explain the same pattern. A force that imitates, that enforces, because it knows that it has no source. It survives only by feeding off of the original. And some of you might have heard the word demiurge before. And if you haven't, I know it sounds strange, but it's really simple. The demiurge is what the mystics called the false architect, the force that can build structures and systems but not breathe life into them. It can imitate, it can copy, it can enforce, but it cannot originate. Think of a craftsman who can only mold clay into figures, but has no breath to make them come alive. That's the demiurge. And it's not the only archetype at work in the cosmos. There are forces of creation, forces of destruction, love, chaos, rebirth. But the reason that we're talking about this one, the demiurge today, because it is a reflection of the system of white supremacy here on Earth. It's the cosmic illusion of power without spirit. And its shadow in this world is the very system that we're trapped inside of. As above, so below. What shows up in consciousness shows up in society. The demiurge, on a cosmic level, builds universes but cannot generate the soul they need to live. The system of white supremacy, on an earthly level, builds nations, economies, governments, but cannot generate the soul that it feeds on. Both are parasites in form. The demiurge copies the pattern of the source without carrying its essence. The system of white supremacy does the same thing, copying culture, music, science, philosophy, from melanated people, from indigenous peoples, while pretending it created them. Both build a rigid order that looks like progress. The life inside of it is borrowed. And that is the answer to the question. The system of white supremacy did not rise because it was better. It rose because it was the earthly tool of a larger archetype, a necessary antagonist of this cosmic drama. It survives by feeding on the brilliance of others while disguising itself as the source of everything. Now let me be clear. Saying that the system of white supremacy has a cosmic role does not excuse it. On the human level, the system of white supremacy is evil, oppression, violence, lies, theft. That's undeniable. But on a higher level, even this tragedy has a cosmic purpose. The mind of the all, the source of everything, can only know itself through contrast. Without tension, there is no vibration. Without vibration, there is no growth. Light knows itself against darkness. Freedom after oppression. Potential only becomes conscious when pressure forces it to waken up. And here's where I have to make something clear. When I talk about melanated people being the source and the system of white supremacy being the program, I'm not speaking about separation in the ultimate sense. I'm speaking about roles within the cosmic dream, because at the highest level, there is no separation. I'm talking about roles within the dream. It's all the infinite self. The source is playing every role. The oppressed, the oppressor, the villain, the victim, the creator, the destroyer. This is the cosmic drama. The mask look different, but behind the mask is all the same face. The tragedy of the system of white supremacy is real on this level. But when you look at it on the highest level, it's the one experiencing itself in all possibilities. That's why we can't get lost in the hatred or superiority, because the all is acting out every part to awaken itself. And for anyone listening who was born into whiteness, understand this. I'm not saying that you are the source of this system. I'm saying that you were born inside of it. And the question for you is whether you'll keep feeding it or whether you'll wake up from it too. Because at the highest level, behind your mask is the infinite self as well. You are not separate from the all, but your role in this drama is to stop identifying with the superiority of this system, the false superiority of this system, and start aligning with the source within you. That's how you step out of the program. And this is where melanin comes into the picture. Melanin isn't just a skin color. It's a biological interface between consciousness and environment. It's a conductor of light, of frequency, of information. For melanated people, this means a more direct and intimate connection with the living world and environment, and to higher frequencies. For people with melanin deficiencies, white people, it's not impossible to tap in, but it is much more difficult without having sufficient levels of melanin. And so what happens? The less potent the connection to the unseen, the more emphasis gets put on the seen, on the physical world, on the physical plane, on material dominance. That's part of the psychology that Dr. Welsing exposed. It's not about hate. It's about understanding why this illusion got built in the first place and how each of us can wake up from it. And when you start to step back even further, you start to see that the emergence of whiteness itself, even the emergence of melanin deficiency, wasn't an accident. Without that emergence, you wouldn't have a group of people whose biology made them emphasize the material world over the spiritual world. You wouldn't have this culture of control and domination. And without this culture of control and domination, you wouldn't have the pressure needed to awaken the source within the melanated peoples. It's all connected. One thing leads to another. One polarity calls forth its opposite. This is how the infinite experiences itself through every possible expression, even the ones that we call tragic. And when you really understand this on the highest level, it changes everything. Because what we once thought of as this great machine that we could never defeat, this all-powerful system of white supremacy, isn't that at all. It only looked like that because we've been looking at it from inside the program. But it's not the source. It's not the dreamer. It's a program within the dream. The people who built it, the people who benefit from it, Even white society itself is not the source either. They are participants in the program. They have no true power or authority within this universe outside of the role in this script. From the perspective of melanated people, from the perspective of the source, this makes the system and the people running it far less significant than we originally thought of. They are part of the program, not the source. And that's what this whole drama has been about. This system of white supremacy, this reflection of the false archetype, applied pressure so heavy, so unbearable, that the source within us had no choice but to wake up. We were stripped of language, of history, land, gods, freedom. We were thrown into the fire. But in that fire, something deeper rose. We turned scraps into culture. We turned trauma into rhythm. We turned pain into philosophy. We remembered the source within us that the chains could not reach. What was meant to erase us revealed that we cannot be erased. And it's no accident that this is happening now. We are living in the turning of ages. And in this new stage of the dream, the task of the microcosm, us, is not to stay asleep, but to wake up inside the dream. That's why this pressure has been so extreme. That's why this machine has risen to global power. It was never proof of their superiority. It was proof of the cosmic drama. The antagonist rose not because it was strong, but because its role was to force the hero to remember itself. This age demands nothing less than full consciousness within the dream. What does that mean for us now? This means we can no longer avoid this conversation. We can no longer stay silent. We have to name the system of white supremacy, not to excuse it, not to justify it, but to expose its true role, then move beyond it. Because once you see the pattern, as above, so below, you stop feeding it, you stop believing in it, and you start building from the source. And that is the real lesson of this cosmic drama. The system of white supremacy tried to break us. It tried to own us. But in the end, all it did was force us to wake up. And now the choice is ours. We can either keep playing in the prison that it built, or we can step into our roles as the conscious creators within this dream. And that's how we survive this collapse. That's how we shift the story. Thanks for watching. Peace.